During World War II, the persecution of Jews was at its peak. Many people were forced to go into hiding and even had their basic rights taken away from them. Anneliese Marie Frank, more commonly known as Anne Frank, is one of those people. She kept a diary while in hiding, and she talked about her thoughts and feelings, things that occurred in the annex, and even stuff that happened outside of the annex. She wrote in her diary, "It's a wonder I haven't abandoned all my ideals. They seem so absurd and impractical, yet I cling to them because I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart." Rosenberg 19. This statement shows that she really grew as a person while she was in the annex. Anne Frank was born in Frankfurt in 1929, and she had one sister, Margaret Frank, who's 3 years older than her. Jews were highly unemployed, and the economy was terrible for them. These are some of the factors that caused the Franks to move to Amsterdam from Frankfurt. Otto Frank, Anne's father, started a business in Amsterdam, but this business was unsuccessful. Then he started another one, and it had more success. Whenever World War II began, Anne was 10 years old, and they had many rules that were set in place. Some of them were that the Jews had to wear a Star of David to distinguish themselves. Jews were forced to go to different schools, and if they owned a business, they had to give it up. On July 5th, 1942, Anne's sister Margaret got a call from a labor camp to go work there, and Anne's parents were very suspicious of this, so they didn't let her go, and they went into hiding that next day. They hid above a warehouse where people were working, and it was the Frank family and 4 others. This made it very cramped. On September 28th, 1942, Anne wrote in her diary, "I've learned one thing: you only really get to know a person after a fight. Only then can you judge their true character." This shows that there were fights. The entrance of the annex was behind a bookcase, and the annex eventually became known as the secret annex. Her first entry is dated June 14th, 1944, and during her first entry she talks about her birthday, because she got it on her birthday, and the events of that day. And one of the things she wrote in her diary is that if she got a dog, she would name it Rin Tin Tin. Many of her writings are addressed as letters, and they're addressed to a girl named Kitty. Kitty is a fictional character in a series of books that Anne read, and she, for some reason, decided she wanted to address all her letters to Kitty. Her diary entries went from the typical thoughts and feelings of a teenage girl discovering herself while growing up and talking about the war going on around her. Her entry on July 6, 1944 says, "To me, I can't imagine how anyone can say I'm weak and then stay that weak. If you know that about yourself, why not fight it? Why not develop your character?" Rosenberg 19. On March 28, 1944, Dutch Minister Bolkestein requested that everyone who was Dutch to keep documents of people who had experienced hardships throughout the war. Anne heard of this from the radio that they kept in the annex, and this caused her to start rewriting her diary, and this is where she started calling her story The Secret Annex. There are 2 forms of Anne's diary today, and that's the original version that she was just writing as a diary, and then there's the version that she intended to be a story. Anne's family eventually were captured. Someone betrayed them, but it is still unknown today who it was that betrayed them, and they were captured on August 4th, 1944. They all were brought to concentration camps, and Anne and her sister Margaret both eventually died of typhus and exhaustion. But Otto Frank, he lived and he got out. The concentration camp he was in was liberated, and whenever he got out, he wanted everyone to be able to experience Anne's diary so that they could see the hardships and the racism and discrimination that the Jews went through. This isn't an exact diary, but it holds real significance because it's a place where people can put their thoughts and feelings into things and really let themselves go.